Of this team battle of name that sin.
Team number one. Team number one. What is that fool doing right there? What kind of sin is that? Or do you have the sin? You're saying no, you don't have the sin over there. Are you sure? Is that your final answer? Final answer over here? You have it? Final answer over here? Hold it high in the sky. Is that what you're going with? Show the class. Ding, 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 that is correct. Everyone give a round of applause. Round of applause. Oh, give me a louder applause than that. Come on, come here. That was a good one. That was a tricky one. Good job there, Carly.
Good morning, parents, and welcome to lesson 4. What is sin, and how do you stop sin? Today we covered this biblical story of Cain and Abel, and all the lessons that are to come from that story. We then covered in catechesis lesson number 6 on page 39 of their catechism book. Everything that's in that lesson today. So we highly recommend that during this week, pull out the book, go through that lesson to have the vernacular, to have the points of the lessons covered this week. And that way you can help your children do the mission this week, which is to identify sins in their life, particularly the ones they're committing and the ones that they see around them. That's their mission this week. It's a very important one. On the wave tops of what we covered the 2 types of sin, original sin and actual sin. We covered the definition. We focused pretty much on the definitions and the occurrences of actual sin. The definition of actual sin will be found in that lesson, but it's basically any willful thought, desire, word, action, or omission against the laws of God. We covered the 2 types of actual sins, which are mortal sins and venial sins. Mortal sins, of course, being serious offenses against God, and venial sins being less grievous offenses toward God. We talked about the 3 conditions that make a mortal sin, which is the act must be seriously wrong, you must know that it is seriously wrong, and you must give your full consent. Of course, we compared that with venial sins, which is not so seriously wrong. The sinner doesn't know or doesn't believe it's that wrong, and of course, they may not give their full consent in committing that wrong, which then makes it venial sin. We covered the important part of the class. The other important part of the class was how to prevent sins altogether. How do you combat this? How do you stop it from occurring? And we covered that. And again, it's covered in lesson 6. But it's basically by doing your prayers, which the children are already doing a pretty good job at. Morning prayer and evening prayer. By remembering that God is always with you. By recalling that the Holy Spirit is with you always and is part of you, in you. By keeping occupied, basically not staying too idle with your day. In work, do plenty of acts of work and play. By resisting it when it comes time for temptation. Learning how to resist temptations. And of course, avoiding those near occasions of sin. Now, we particularly had an emphasis on near occasion of sins because at this age, this is what really helps in preventing sins, which is person, places, and things that lead one to sin. Those are near occasions of sin. The children covered all these things today so that they can go out and try to identify where sin is in their life. We identified the 7 deadly sins and had an overview of what those are. The children now know that the 7 deadly sins are pride, envy, wrath, greed, sloth, gluttony, and lust. We had examples today. We actually played a game today of can you identify the sin? That was the game. And we broke them out into 2 teams, and the teams came into a tie. Right? So it was fun today as we try to identify these sins in these different scenarios we did. Nonetheless, their mission this week is a very valuable one. So we highly encourage the parents to look at lesson 6, start talking about what sin looks like, and just get the practice of identifying them down on paper. Their mission is to identify one sin either that they committed or they saw committed, no names, no actual people involved, and just writing that down for every day, Monday through Sunday of next week. Okay, we hope you have a great week this week, and we did tell them that obedience to parents is a requirement. Disobedience to a parent is a sin. Bye now. God loves you.